The night was cold, and the road was empty. A thin fog moved across the broken highway, and only the sound of the wind filled the silence on the side of the road. A young woman slowly opened her eyes. Her head was bleeding, and her body was shaking. She tried to move, but her arms felt heavy, and her legs did not answer. She looked around, but there was nothing, no lights, no houses, no people, only the wide sky above her, filled with faint stars. She touched her head and found blood, but she could not remember why. She could not even remember her name. Her mind was empty, like someone had stolen her past. She gasped for air, confused and afraid. In the distance, she heard a sound. It was not a human voice. It was barking, rough and sharp. Soon shadows came running toward her, a pack of stray dogs, dirty and thin, with glowing eyes in the dark. She froze, thinking they would attack her, but instead, they stopped and circled around her. Their noses sniffed her wounds. Their tails wagged slowly, as if they saw her not as prey but as one of their own. The girl tried to speak, but her voice was weak. A soft whisper came out, and the dogs tilted their heads as if listening. One of them, larger than the rest, came closer and licked her hand. She felt warmth in that simple touch. For the first time since opening her eyes, she felt she was not alone. The pack began to move, barking at her, walking a few steps, and turning back to check if she followed. With great effort, she pushed herself up. Her legs shook, but she walked slowly behind them. Step by step, the dogs led her off the road, into the ruins of an old town. Broken walls, empty houses, and scattered trash filled the place. It smelled of smoke and dust, but to her, it felt like shelter. Inside a broken building, the dogs circled her again and lay close. Their bodies gave her warmth. She sat down on the cold ground, her back against the wall. She had no name, no memory, no family, but she had the dogs, and in that moment, they became her world. As she closed her eyes, she saw flashes, a face she could not recognize, a hand reaching for her, a voice calling out in fear. But the images vanished as quickly as they came, leaving her heart pounding. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She did not know why she was crying. She only knew that deep inside, something important was missing. The night passed slowly. She slept lightly, waking every time the dogs barked at noises. In the dark, a train horn echoed far away, the sound of metal wheels against tracks. She wondered if she had once been on a train, if she had traveled somewhere. But again her thoughts hit a wall of emptiness. The more she tried to remember, the more pain filled her head. In the morning, the sun rose, spreading pale light across the ruins. The dogs stretched, and one dropped a piece of bread near her. She looked at it in surprise. They had stolen food for her. She ate it slowly, sharing pieces with them, and for the first time, she smiled. The dogs wagged their tails, happy as if they had known her. Forever, days passed in this rhythm. She learned to follow the dogs. They showed her where to find water, where to dig for scraps, where to hide when strangers came. The girl began to understand their sounds, the growls, the barks, the whines. It was as if the dogs were teaching her a new language, a language of survival. But every night the dreams returned, shadows, fire, the sound of someone screaming her name. She woke up gasping, holding her head. The dogs would gather round her, calming her with their presence. Yet she knew the dreams were pieces of her lost life, pieces that refused to stay buried. One evening, while she was sitting with the pack near a broken fountain, she looked at her reflection in the water. The face staring back at her was young but tired. Her hair was tangled, her clothes torn, and her eyes full of questions. She whispered to herself, "Who am I?" But the water gave no answer, only silence. The dogs barked suddenly, pulling her from her thoughts. They faced the street, ears high, their eyes fixed on the distance. The girl followed their gaze but saw nothing. A strange feeling rose in her chest, as if someone, somewhere, was watching her. She hugged one of the dogs, fear mixing with hope. She did not know that soon a man would step into her life, a man who carried the key to her forgotten past. For now, she had only the dogs, the ruins, and the emptiness of her memory. But her story was just beginning. The days turned into weeks, and the nameless girl became one of the pack. She no longer felt human in the way she once might have. Instead, She moved with the rhythm of the dogs, following their lead, copying their instincts, and surviving in the forgotten corners of the ruined town. Every morning the dogs left the broken building where they slept. They ran through the streets, noses searching the ground. The girl followed, barefoot and quiet. She learned to listen as they listened. A rustle of paper, the clink of a bottle, the faint sound of footsteps, nothing escaped their ears. At first she struggled, weak and slow, but the more she stayed with them, the sharper her senses grew. Food was always a struggle. The dogs dug into trash piles, pulling out bones or half-eaten bread. Sometimes they carried back their finds and dropped them in front of her, as if she was one of their own. At first she cried, ashamed to eat what others had thrown away. But hunger was stronger than shame. She accepted their gift, breaking pieces of bread and sharing them again, and the dogs wagged their tails with approval. The leader of the pack was a scarred dog with one torn ear. He was larger, older, and his eyes carried both wisdom and pain. He never left her side for long. He seemed to understand she was fragile, and every time a stranger came too close, he growled until they backed away. The girl often leaned against him at night, feeling safe in his presence. Slowly, the girl found strength in her body. She learned how to climb walls with her hands and feet, how to run quietly on soft dirt, how to drink from cracked pipes without getting sick. Her reflection in the fountain began to change. Her cheeks were no longer hollow, her eyes no longer dull. She was still lost, but she was alive sometimes. She sat on the rooftop of a half-broken house, watching the sunset with the dogs beside her. The colors of the sky made her heart ache. She did not know why, but she felt something missing, something more than food and survival. She touched her chest, wondering if someone out there once cared for her, wondered if someone was still searching. The nights were harder when the streets turned quiet. Shadows moved in the ruins. Other stray dogs, wild and unfriendly, sometimes attacked her pack. The fights were loud and brutal, and she always hid in fear, yet her dogs always returned. Bloody but alive, they licked her hands as if to tell her not to worry. She hugged them, whispering thanks in a broken voice. The dreams became stronger too. In her sleep, she heard voices, a man calling her name, though she could not hear the name clearly. She saw flashes of light, heard the crash of metal, felt the touch of a warm hand. Then she woke, heart racing, her dogs pressing against her side. Their presence was the only thing that calmed her. One day she followed the pack outside the ruins to the edge of the city. There she saw people real, people living their lives, children laughing, women selling bread, men carrying bags of goods. The sound of life was so strong it made her heart race. She stepped forward, but the dogs barked sharply, pulling her back. She froze, fear rising. She wanted to walk into the crowd, to ask someone who she was, but her legs refused. Something inside her told her she was not safe there. She turned back with the pack, and the city life faded behind her. In that moment she realized she was trapped between two worlds. One world of humans she could not remember, and one world of dogs that had become her family. As the sun went down, she sat in the ruins, feeding crumbs to the smallest pup in the pack. The pup curled in her lap, warm and trusting. She whispered, "Maybe this is my life now." Her voice was soft, broken, but in the silence, it felt like a promise, but deep inside, she knew this life could not last forever. She was human, and humans needed more than scraps and shadows. She needed answers. She needed the truth, and soon, whether she wanted or not, the truth would come to find her. That night, as the moon rose high, the scarred leader barked fiercely at the empty street. The pack stood ready, ears sharp, eyes glowing. The girl followed their gaze with a shiver. For a moment she thought she saw movement, the shape of someone standing at the edge of the ruins, watching. Then the shadow was gone, swallowed by the dark. She hugged the pup tightly, fear and hope twisting together inside her heart. She did not know that the man who carried her past had finally found her, and that the quiet life with the dogs was about to change forever. The wind carried dust through the broken streets. The girl sat with her pack near the ruined fountain, her thin hands holding a crust of bread the dogs had stolen. She tore it into pieces and shared it with them. Her eyes looked tired, yet there was peace in her strange family. But that evening was different. The dogs lifted their heads suddenly, their ears twitched, and their bodies stiffened. The leader with the torn ear growled low. The girl followed their gaze, her heart pounding. A man was walking into the ruins. His steps were slow but steady. He did not look lost. He walked as if he already knew where he was going. His clothes were dusty from travel, his face shadowed by the fading sun. The girl's first thought was to run, but her legs froze. The dogs surrounded her, their barks loud, warning him to stay away. Yet the man did not flinch. Instead, he knelt on one knee and reached into a bag. From it he pulled food, real food, fresh bread and dried meat. He placed it on the ground and waited. His eyes never left the dogs, but they were calm, not threatening. The dogs barked less, their tails uncertain, sniffing the air. Slowly, one brave pup stepped forward and took a piece. The man smiled softly, as if this was what he had hoped. The girl's mouth went dry, her heart raced faster. She had seen many strangers in the city, but none dared step this far into the ruins, and none had been welcomed by the pack. The scarred leader walked toward the man, sniffed the food, then licked his hand. The girl's eyes widened in shock. That dog never trusted anyone but her. Yet here he was, standing calmly beside a stranger. The man finally lifted his gaze and looked at the girl. For a moment the world felt silent. His eyes were dark, steady, and filled with something she could not name. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. It was as if his stare pulled at a memory buried deep inside her. He spoke, his voice low and careful. "I've been searching for you." The words shook her. She touched her head, confused. "Me?" Her voice cracked, weak from disuse. The man nodded. His expression softened, but there was pain behind his calm. "Yes, you," he said. "Do you remember anything?" The girl felt her chest tighten. The question was like a knife. She shook her head, tears burning her eyes. "I don't know who I am," she whispered. The dogs pressed against her, sensing her fear. The man lowered his head for a moment, then looked back at her with determination. "You don't have to remember everything right now," he said, "but you're not alone anymore." The girl's hands trembled. She wanted to believe him, but doubt filled her. Every time she tried to trust the world outside the ruins, danger followed. Yet the dogs did not growl at him now. They stayed calm, sitting near him as though he belonged. That night, the man did not leave. He made a small fire in the ruins, keeping it low so no one outside could see. The girl watched him carefully, her knees pulled close to her chest. The dogs lay between them, but not as guards, more like companions of both. He gave her water from a clean flask. The taste was so pure it brought tears to her eyes. She drank slowly, afraid it might disappear if she finished too fast. Then he handed her a piece of fruit. She hesitated, then bit into it. The sweetness filled her mouth, and she gasped. It was the first real food she had tasted in months. "Who are you?" she asked at last, her voice shaking. The man looked at her across the fire. "My name is Elias," he said. "And you?" "You are someone very important." Her heart jumped, but fear rose stronger. "Important," she whispered, shaking her head. "I'm nobody. I don't even know my name." He leaned closer, his eyes holding hers. "That's what they wanted," he said. "That's why they tried to erase you." The girl's blood ran cold. She clutched the fur of the scarred leader at her side. Her mind spun. Who were they? What had happened to her? Why did this man know so much? Before she could speak again, the dogs barked sharply. Their ears pointed to the darkness beyond the ruins. Elias's face hardened. He stood quickly, pulling something from his bag, a small knife that gleamed in the firelight. "They found us," he whispered. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with urgency. The girl's heart pounded. She did not know who had found them. She did not know what they wanted. But she knew one thing: the quiet life with her dogs was over. This stranger had brought change, and with it danger. She held the smallest pup tightly, staring at Elias with fear and hope mixed in her chest. She did not know if she should trust him, but deep inside, her soul whispered that she already did. And so the night of strangers, shadows, and lost memories had only just begun. The fire burned low, throwing long shadows against the broken walls. The girl sat with her dogs close, her eyes never leaving the stranger named Elias. His words echoed in her mind. That's why they tried to erase you." She did not know who they were, but the fear in his voice told her it was no small danger. Elias sat quietly, his knife resting on the ground beside him. He was not like the men she sometimes saw in the city, men with greedy eyes who threw rocks at her dogs. He carried himself differently, as if he belonged to another world. His hands were scarred, his clothes worn from travel, but his gaze was steady. The dogs trusted him, and that made her restless. The scarred leader had already curled up near Elias's feet, the smaller pups sleeping close to him as though they had known him for years. It was unnatural, and yet it felt right. The girl whispered, her voice trembling, "Why are you here? Why are you looking for me?" Elias lifted his head, his eyes catching the dim firelight. "Because you are not who you think you are," he said slowly. "You had a life, a name, a place where you belonged. I promised I would find you when everything fell apart." Her breath caught. She shook her head quickly, tears forming in her eyes. "No, I don't remember. I don't know you." She pressed her palms against her temples, as if forcing the memories to come. But there was only pain, sharp and blinding. Elias leaned forward, his voice calm. "Don't force it. Memories return when they are ready. I'm not asking you to believe everything right now. I'm only asking you to trust me." Trust. The word stabbed her heart. Trust was something she had given only to the dogs. They had never lied, never left her, never hurt her. Could she give the same to a man she did not know? But then something strange happened. Elias reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object. He placed it on the ground between them. The girl leaned forward, her eyes widening. It was a silver locket, scratched and old, but when the firelight touched it, she felt her chest tighten. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. She opened it slowly. Inside was a faded picture. It showed Hercules, smiling, alive, standing beside Elias, his arm around her shoulders. Her heart thudded painfully. She did not remember the moment, but her soul knew it was real. She dropped the locket as if it burned her. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Why can't I remember?" she cried, her voice breaking. The dogs whined softly, pressing against her legs as if to comfort her. Elias's expression darkened with sorrow. He spoke gently, "Because they tried to take it from you. They wanted you broken. They wanted you lost. But memory cannot be destroyed completely. It lives inside you, waiting for the right moment to return." The girl looked at him with shaking eyes. "Who are they?" she asked. Elias's jaw tightened. His hand clenched around the knife. "The ones who caused the accident," he said. "The ones who hunted us before. They think you're gone, but when they learn you survived, they'll come again, and this time, they won't leave it unfinished." Her stomach twisted in fear. She hugged the smallest pup close. Rocking gently, she wanted to scream, to run, but her legs felt frozen. Elias noticed her shaking. He lowered his knife and moved a little closer. "Careful not to frighten her. I know this is too much," he said softly. "But you are stronger than you think. You survived the streets. You survived without memory. You lived when no one thought you could. That strength will save you again." For the first time since the accident, she felt something stir in her heart. It was not memory, but a spark, a connection. His words carried warmth, like a rope pulling her out of the darkness. She could not explain it, but she felt safer near him than she ever thought possible. The fire burned lower, and the ruins grew colder. She shivered, hugging the pup. Elias noticed and took off his jacket. He tossed it gently toward her. She hesitated, staring at the worn fabric. Then she wrapped it around herself. The warmth was immediate, and so was the strange comfort. She looked at him through tears. "Why do you care so much?" she asked weakly. Elias's gaze softened. "Because once, you cared for me when no one else did," he whispered. Her heart skipped. She didn't remember, but the words settled deep inside her like truth. That night, as she lay surrounded by her dogs, the locket pressed against her chest. She dreamed again, but this time the dream was clearer. A flash of fire, a car crash, and Elias's voice shouting her name. She woke with a gasp, her body trembling. For the first time, she almost heard the name, almost remembered who she was. She sat up, her eyes meeting Elias's across the dying fire. Neither spoke, but both knew something had shifted. something fragile but powerful, a connection beyond memory. And somewhere in the distance, hidden in the shadows, another pair of eyes. Watch them, patient and cruel. The morning came with a strange silence. The girl woke with the dogs around her, their bodies warm against the cold air. Elias was already awake, standing at the edge of the ruins. His eyes scanned the distance, sharp and restless. She rubbed her eyes, the locket still pressed against her chest. Memories had not returned, but the dream of fire and his voice haunted her. She wanted to ask more, but before she could speak, the scarred leader growled low. His ears stood high, his body stiff. The rest of the pack followed, barking sharply at the empty streets. Elias turned quickly, his face hard. "They're here," he whispered. The girl's blood froze. She clutched the smallest pup close, her heart pounding. She wanted to ask who, but she already knew. The shadows. From her dreams, the faceless enemies who had caused the accident. They had come. From the far side of the ruins, figures appeared, men in dark coats, moving in silence. Their eyes swept across the broken buildings, searching. They carried weapons, gleaming under the pale morning light. They did not look like common thieves or beggars. They moved with purpose, trained, dangerous. The dogs barked louder, forming a wall in front of the girl. Elias stepped forward, knife in hand, though his eyes flicked to her with urgency. "Stay behind them. Don't move unless I tell you." Her chest heaved, fear choking her. She whispered, "Why are they after me? What do they want?" Elias did not answer at first. His eyes stayed on the approaching men. His jaw tightened. "Because you know something," he finally said. "Something they wanted to bury with you." The girl shook her head wildly. "But I don't remember anything. I don't know what they want. That doesn't matter," Elias said firmly. "You survived, and that makes you a threat to them." The words hit her like ice. She wanted to run, but her legs would not move. The dogs snarled and snapped, ready to defend. Their loyalty gave her courage, though her body trembled. The men spread out, circling the ruins, their voices carried in the wind, harsh and cold. "Check everywhere," one ordered. "She can't have gone far." The girl gasped. They knew she was alive. They were hunting her like prey. Elias crouched low, his voice quick and sharp. "There's a passage under the fountain," he whispered to her. "When I give the signal, take the dogs and go. Don't look back. Do you understand?" Her eyes widened. "What about you?" He looked at her, his face calm but fierce. "I'll hold them off." Her chest ached. She wanted to scream no, but the dogs barked louder. The men drawing closer. Elias gripped her shoulder, his touch firm. "You have to live. You're the reason I came here. Don't waste it." Before she could argue, a rock clattered across the ground. One of the men had spotted them there. He shouted, guns lifted, their footsteps quick. Elias pushed her back. "Go," he shouted. The girl scrambled toward the fountain with the dogs pressing around her. The scarred leader barked fiercely, guiding her. She reached the cracked stone where Elias had pointed, and there, hidden under debris, was a narrow tunnel. Her hands shook as she pulled the stone aside. Her heart raced. She looked back at Elias. He stood tall, his knife ready, his body between her and the danger. The firelight of the night before was gone, replaced by cold steel in his eyes. The first man rushed forward. Elias moved faster. His blade flashed. The man fell. The others shouted, spreading wider. Guns cracked, bullets striking the stone walls. The girl cried out, clutching the pup. The dogs growled but pushed her toward the tunnel. She hesitated, tears streaming. "Elias," she cried. Her voice broke with fear. He turned his head just enough to meet her eyes. His voice was strong. "Remember what I told you. Live." The scarred leader tugged at her torn sleeve with his teeth, forcing her down into the tunnel. She crawled inside, darkness swallowing her. The dogs squeezed in behind, their bodies pressing close. The sounds of gunfire and shouts echoed above. Elias's voice lost in the chaos. The tunnel was narrow. Her knees scraped against stone. She sobbed as she moved, the dogs pushing her forward. Every part of her wanted to turn back, to fight, to stay with Elias. But his words chained her forward. At last, the tunnel opened into another part of the ruins. She crawled out into blinding daylight, gasping for air. The dogs surrounded her. Again, tails high, ears sharp, but she fell to her knees, clutching the locket, crying his name. The world around her was no longer silent. The outside threat had come, and her life with the dogs would never be the same. Somewhere behind her, in the broken heart of the ruins, Elias was fighting alone against the men who wanted her gone. And she realized the truth: she could not hide forever if she wanted to survive, if she wanted to protect the dogs and the man who risked everything for her. She would have to face the world she had forgotten. The girl stumbled out of the tunnel, her knees bruised, her hands bleeding from crawling on sharp stone. The dogs surrounded her, barking and restless, their ears turned back toward the ruins where the sound of gunfire still echoed. Her chest rose and fell quickly, her breath sharp and broken. She wanted to run back. Every part of her body screamed to turn around, to find Elias. But the scarred leader blocked her path, growling low, his golden eyes fixed on hers. As if telling her no, she fell to her knees, clutching the locket at her chest. Tears streamed down her dirty face. "He's fighting for me," she whispered. "How can I leave him?" The dogs pressed against her, warm and loyal, yet their bodies trembled too. They knew danger still hunted them. The girl looked up at the broken skyline, the rising smoke, the morning sun burning weak through the haze. She felt trapped between two choices: return to the man who had risked everything for her, or obey his words and keep running. Her mind spun. She remembered his steady voice by the fire. "You are stronger than you think." She remembered the locket, the picture of them together, a memory her heart knew even when her mind refused. Could she trust a man she did not remember? Could she trust herself to walk into a past she had forgotten? A shout cut through the ruins, harsh and commanding. The enemy was spreading, searching every street. She froze, panic tightening her chest. If they found her, Elias's fight would mean nothing. The scarred leader barked sharply, snapping her back to the moment. The pack moved, urging her forward. She rose on unsteady legs, her voice trembling. "All right, we move." She picked up the smallest pup, cradling it to her chest, and followed the pack deeper into the ruins. Every step felt heavy, as if leaving Elias behind was tearing her in two. The streets blurred with tears, yet she pushed on. Shadows danced across walls, whispers of footsteps echoed behind her. At every corner, she thought she saw them, the men in black coats, eyes cold and unfeeling. Finally she reached the edge of the ruins where the cracked road led back toward the city. The sounds of normal life drifted faintly: children laughing, carts rolling, merchants calling. So close, yet it felt like another world. She stood frozen, unable to step forward. Elias's voice echoed in her memory. "They wanted you broken. They wanted you lost." She touched the locket, her hands trembling. If she stayed hidden, she would always be broken, always running. But if she stepped into the world again, she risked everything. The dogs growled suddenly, pulling her out of her thoughts. From the side streets, shadows moved again. 3 men, their eyes locked on her. They raised their weapons. The girl gasped, clutching the pup tighter. The scarred leader lunged forward, barking furiously. His pack spread around her, ready to defend. But she knew the dogs could not win against bullets. Not this time. Then, through the smoke and echoes, another sound cut: the arrow whistle, sharp and familiar. The dogs froze, ears perking. The girl's heart leapt. She turned, and there, limping but alive, came Elias, his face bruised, his arm bleeding, but his eyes burning with fire. Relief flooded her so strong she almost collapsed. The dogs rushed toward him, circling him with barks of joy. He stumbled closer, his knife still in hand. "I told you to run," he said, his voice weak but firm. She shook her head, her tears flowing. "I couldn't leave you," she whispered. Elias's eyes softened, despite the danger around them. "Then trust me now," he said. "Trust me to get you through this." The men stepped closer, shouting, raising their guns. Elias grabbed her hand, pulling her behind him. "No more running," he said, his voice steady despite his wounds. "If you want to live, you have to choose. Do you trust me?" The girl looked at him, at the locket in her hand, at the dogs, growling by her side. Her chest heaved with fear, but deep inside, something broke free. She remembered the dream, the car crash, his voice shouting her name. She almost heard it clearly now, almost remembered who she was, Her grip tightened around his hand. Her voice cracked but strong. "Yes, I trust you." The words left her mouth, and for the first time since the accident, she felt alive, not just surviving, but living. Not just hiding, but fighting. Elias nodded, his eyes shining with something between pain and pride. "Then we fight together," he said. The dogs barked as if answering him. Their circle tightened. The scarred leader at the front, the enemy raised their weapons, but the girl no longer trembled. She had made her choice. She would no longer be only the girl who had lost her memory. She would be the one who chose trust over fear. And as the first shot rang out, the ruins shook with the beginning of a battle that would decide everything. The air cracked with gunfire. Dust and stone rained down from the broken walls. The girl clung to Elias's hand, her body trembling, but for the first time her heart was steady. She had made her choice. She trusted him, and that trust gave her strength. The dogs charged first, barking and snapping, forcing the armed men to step back. Elias moved like a shadow, his knife flashing, striking with speed. He fought with pain in his wounded arm, yet his will was unbroken. The girl crouched, low, clutching the pup against her chest, her eyes darting for any chance to help. A man raised his gun toward Elias, without thinking. The girl picked up a broken stone and hurled it. The rock struck his hand, and the shot went wild. Elias turned, finishing him with a swift move. He looked back at her, eyes blazing. "Good." He shouted, "Don't freeze, fight to live." Her chest swelled with something she had not felt before, courage. The pack stood with her, snarling, refusing to yield, the ruins filled with chaos. But inside her heart, a fire was growing. One by one, the enemies fell. Some fled into the shadows, but one man remained, taller, colder, his eyes sharp as steel. He did not run. He stepped forward, his voice calm and cruel. "So you survived," he said. His gaze landed on the girl. "But you won't escape this time." The girl's body froze. Her mind flashed with sudden images: the crash, the fire, the same cold eyes watching as she bled on the ground. Her chest tightened. Her memory broke. Open like a flood, she remembered his voice, his threat, his promise to erase her. And then Elias's arms carrying her, refusing to let her go. She gasped, tears spilling. "I remember," she whispered. Her voice shook, but her eyes burned with fury. "I remember you." The man smirked, lifting his weapon. "Then you know why you have to die." Before he could fire, Elias stepped in front of her, shielding her with his body. "You'll have to go through me," he said. His voice was low, but it carried a fire that shook even the silence of the ruins. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then everything exploded into motion. The man lunged. Elias fought with desperate strength. The dogs leapt into the fray. Their snarls and barks filled the air. The girl held the pup tight, her body trembling with every sound of the struggle. The fight ended in a flash of steel and fury. The man fell, his weapon clattering on the ground. Elias stood shaking, his body weak, his wounds bleeding, but his eyes alive. The girl ran to him. Dropping the pup, she caught him as he stumbled, her hands pressed against his wounds. "Don't you dare leave me," she cried, her voice breaking. He smiled faintly, pain in his face but warmth in his eyes. "I told you. You are stronger than you think," he whispered. "You lived, you remembered, and now you're free." Her tears fell on his cheek. She shook her head fiercely. "No, not without you. You're the one who gave me life back." Elias's hand found hers, his grip weak but steady. "Then live with me," he said softly. "Not just surviving, not just hiding, live." In that moment, the weight of her forgotten past lifted. The girl no longer felt lost. She remembered her name, her place, her love. She pressed her forehead against his, whispering through tears, "I trust you. I choose you." The dogs circled them, tails wagging now, the danger gone. Their eyes shone in the light of dawn, as if blessing the bond between them. The ruins that once felt like prison walls now felt like the ground of rebirth. Elias leaned on her, his strength failing. She wrapped her arm around him, supporting his weight. Together they stepped out of the ruins, the dogs following like guardians of their new life. The city was waking, voices rising in the distance. The girl no longer feared its streets. She was not the broken soul who had lived with only scraps. and shadows. She was alive, whole, and loved. The locket lay warm against her chest. No longer just a reminder but a promise. She had survived the accident, the hunger, the emptiness. She had found family in the dogs and found life in one man's love. And as the sun rose higher, painting the sky with gold, she knew her story was no longer about what she had lost. It was about what she had found again: her memory, her courage, and the love that gave her life.